Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's N2O2G, never too old to game here. I'd just like to say thank you very much for everyone that's been following me and subscribing. It's fantastic. And today we're going to be talking about the top 5 loadouts in Warzone Pacific Caldera right now, my friends. And what we want to know is, what is the best guns out there? So guys, in 5th place we have the MP5 Cold War gun along with the MG82. I love the pair of these guns because the MG Cold War is very fast moving, very easy to use, hits very hard, it's fantastic. It is on par with the OTS. It depends on your play style and how you like to use the gun, but I do love this gun. The MG82 has a 125 magazine clip. It can melt players. It has an insane fast TTK. It does have recoil hard to control, and that's why I place it in 5th place. So without further ado, let's check out the attachments that we use and abuse on this gun to make this one of the meta SMGs out there. So we have the agency suppressor. This helps us with that sound suppression to keep off the map so we don't ping when we fire the gun. That vertical recoil control, that bullet velocity and the effective damage range. It hits us with the aim down sight, aim walking stairs and aim instability. This gun pretty much has no recoil on it at all, so it's super easy to use. We pair this with the Tiger Team Spotlight for that movement speed and aim walking movement speed. It does have that flashlight visible to enemies and aim instability, but I don't believe that aim instability is much of a hindrance to this gun at all, and it is a fantastic option as a laser. For stock, I run the Raider stock. The reason why I run this is for the sprint to fire time. I'm a controller player, so I do like to make sure that most of my attachments help me with that sprint to fire and do not impede me in any sort of way. It gives you the ADS fire movement speed and aim walking movement speed. This gun moves around very nicely, super easy to use. Has that con of the hip fire accuracy, so not so great there. We sub it with a 50 round standard drum mag, and then the bruiser grip for that movement speed and the hip fire accuracy, which was basically a con from having the Raider stock, so that counteracts that slightly. So a very good gun to use. Still going to be meta along with the OTS-9 and a few others that we're going to touch on, but I'm not going to let you know until we touch on them, my friends. And then we go with the MG82, absolute powerhouse. Love this gun. If you just want to jump in and blast some people apart, if you want to practice in plunder, this is one of the guns to use. You can get an insane amount of kills and it will take down quads, trios, anything. So a very good gun to use. We rock on this the agent suppressor for that sound suppression once again to keep us off the enemy maps. The vertical recoil control, that bullet velocity and the effective damage range. Does affect our ADS and aim stability, but the ADS we're not worried about because this is our medium to long range gun, so we're not going to be engaging quickly with those players. That's what we use the SMG for. We shoved on this with the task force barrels for that bullet velocity, horizontal recoil control, effective damage rate and vertical recoil control, which we definitely need on this gun because it does have a kick on it. We go down to that field aim drip once again. Horizontal and vertical recoil control. Throwing movement speed and the ADS is what are the cons, but we're not worried about it because we're not going to be moving fast with this gun. We'll be placing ourselves in position and firing down, taking down those enemies. We then go with the 125 round standard mag. Don't want the speed mag to affect my ADS anymore. This is pretty much got a slow ADS. Does have a slow reload, so make those bullets count, but do have 125, which will definitely slay a whole quad trio team. Duos easy peasy. Actual 3x scope for this, and for the reticle I like to use the green lot. Very nice, clear and precise. With this guys, I run double time, overkill and amped. Throwing knife, so I don't have to waste my bullets on down players. I can use my throw knife and recapture it, and the heartbeat sensor as a pretty much go-to. That guys is our 5th place. I'll see you on 4th place. Guys, now we're diving down into 4th place, and as you can see, we've got here the MP5 from Modern Warfare and the NZ41 from Vanguard. These are 2 great guns to be using, very easy to use. If you're a controller, the MP5 Modern Warfare SMG is a cracker. It does delete people, it is so good up close, it is fantastic. Does have that drop off at the longer ranges, but it's a great gun to use, especially if you don't have any of the other guns. Modern Warfare MP5 is a great one. Without further ado, let's check it out. So with this, we run the monolithic integral suppressor. It gives us that sound suppression, that bullet velocity, and does affect our ADS. We pair this with the 5mm laser for that sprint to fire time. As I told you before, because of control plane, this is where I do want my pros on, and the hip fire accuracy, because this is an absolute beast when it's hip fire accuracy. It is fantastic for hip firing out of. Then we shove on the operator foregrip for that recoil control, does affect our ADS slightly, the 45 round mag, and then finally we use the collapsible stock for that movement speed and ADS speed. Does affect our aiming stability and recoil control, but I feel that this gun is fairly easy to use, so you don't have to worry about the cons on that. Fantastic gun, guys, to use. Been using it loads and loads, love it. It's tried and tested. Try out yourself. Now we're testing to new orders, the NZ41 or NZ, however you want to say it, is up to you, but this gun is absolutely fantastic. It's really good, super easy to use. It's very much like the Kilo, point and spray. It's very good. For this, I run the MX silencer. This gives that sound suppression, that accuracy, does affect our ADS, but because we're using it for that medium to long range engagements, we don't have to worry about that. Next up, we go for the barrel. For the barrel, we go with the Orb Weaver 360mm BC for that highly accurate and controllable reduced scope swaying gun bob. Sprint to fire speed affected in the hip fire accuracy. We are not going to be sprint to firing with this gun. We're not going to be hip firing at all. That is why we have it paired with the MP5 Modern Warfare SMG. This is, I find that this one is definitely a good one to use in terms of like the bob. You don't want that gun bob, that balloon. As you fire on target, it kind of jitters around, the bullet spray all over the place. We don't want that. We want it actually where we're aiming, and that's where we're firing. We pair this with the Carver foregrip for that recoil control and the hip fire axis, so mainly for the recoil control is what we're after here. We then go with the 6.5 Secura 45 round mag for that recoil control and accuracy, that fire rate, that movement speed, and the magazine ammo capacity. It does affect us with bullet velocity and range, bullet penetration and damage, but it's worth having this on you if you know what I mean. Then we go with ammunition. We go with length for that bullet velocity because it was impeded by the magazine slightly. We then want to boost it slightly back up. And then we go with the stippled grip for that recoil at recovery, initial fire and recoil. So we basically want this gun to beam as such. Optic wise, I go with the G16 2.5x scope. The other option here is all the way down here is to go with the SVT 40 PU scope 3 to 6 times. Totally up to you. It's your preference. I prefer the 2.5 scope. I pair this with the LOR reinforced stock, and this gives us initial firing recoil, aim down sight speed, and recoil recovery. Does affect us actually in recoil during sustained fire. So more likely you don't want to just hold down and keep firing with this gun. You want to fire a little bit, let off, and then fire again, and then you will make sure you'll be beaming with this. So be aware that does affect this gun. For perk wise, we go with brace for that initial fire and recoil. Basically beams be hitting, that's why we fire. We fire on the trigger, let off a little bit, you know how long you want, and then fire again. Do not do it for sustained, otherwise you will get that kick. And then on hand perk 2, you can pretty much go with whatever you want, but equipment dexterity for those quick snapping, firing off your stuns and other stuff, and Semtex, whatever you want, is very cool indeed. Guys, for this we run double time overkill and amped, pretty much the same before, but this time I run Semtex and heartbeat sensor. So guys, that is 4th place. We're going to dive down now into 3rd place. So see you guys in a sec. Well, here we are. We're getting close to that 1st place. We are now in 3rd place. And what do we have here? We have 2 Vanguard guns. We have the PPSH 41 and the Automaton. So guys, these 2 guns are super easy to use. Easy, easy, easy as pie. So if you've just got Vanguard and you guys want to level up some guns and play a little bit of Warzone, these 2 guns are highly recommended to use. You will have fun with them. Very easy to use, fantastic. So without further ado, let's check out the PPSH. So for this, we are rocking the Mercury silencer for that sound suppression to keep us off the enemy maps when we're firing the gun, and that recoil control. Does affect our damage range, but guys, we're using this for close range, so we're not worried about the con on this at all. For the barrel eyes, we are using the Kovalevskaya 230mm BO3P. Man, these names are crazily long and they're very hard to pronounce, so apologies if I got that totally wrong. For this we have the hip fire accuracy, hip fire recoil recovery, and fire rate. A hell of a lot of pros there, and the only cons are that recoil control and ADS speed. But this gun is fantastic. This gun will light up players like no tomorrow. Then we're diving into the underbarrel, which is the 1941 hand stop with that recoil control and accuracy, and does impede slightly our hip fire accuracy, but not too bad because we are covering this with one of the other attachments, which was this one here with the hip fire accuracy plus, so that's counteracted by that. Next up we are looking at the magazine, which is a 7.62 Gorenko 71 round mags. This does affect our ADS, our reload quickness and movement speed, but this gun moves very quickly indeed, and the ADS doesn't really affect it too much. And then we go with the hollow point for the increased limb damage. This gun is fantastic for those necks and chest shots, but does slightly peel off for those limb damage. That's why we shove on this hollow point. You don't really want to worry about the bullet velocity by having Lengford. Hollow point is the way to go. Trust me, check it out, use it. It's the way to be, okay? Next up for rear grip, we go with steel grip for that recoil, recovery and initial fire and recoil to help this gun beam. Optic wise, pretty much you could go with the slate reflector if you want, which is this one up here. Gives that 1.35 times magnification, small rectangle sight and a precision sight picture. Or if you like the iron sights, you can go with either or the ISO 2P or the ISO 3P. Total preference gives you slightly ADS speed as well when you go with one of these ones, so that helps you as well. And I prefer the iron sights. I'm used to iron sights on a lot of these SMG guns, so that's why I rock that. For stock wise, I go with the Empress Custom for that recoil control, flinch resistance, which is cool. So if someone's firing at me, I'm not going to be swaying off with the gunpowder. It's fantastic. Accuracy and recoil does affect the movement speed and our sprint to fire, which is not so great when I'm using controller. Another thing I would possibly look at using is the Kovalevskaya skeletal stock, which helps with that sprint to fire speed and movement speed. So it's worth checking out, but it does have that initial fire in recoil con. So it's a cough-up between either the Empress Custom or the Kovalevskaya skeletal. For perk wise, we go with tight grip for that accuracy and recoil during sustained fire, or you can go for steady as the ADS fire and movement speed, so you can move around a lot more as well on the map. So pretty good. Either option's very good. Tight grip or steady, total preference. Perk 2, pretty much for me, it's on hand, but you can choose any one you want. But I do like to be able to cook or pipe my Semtex or whatever it is using a lot quicker than normal. So that's that. And then we dive into Automaton. This gun is a beamer. It's super easy to use. It has no recoil. It is very, very easy to use, as I've already told you. So without further ado, let's check out the attachments. So for muzzle, we have the MX silencer for that sound suppression. That actually does affect ADS, but we're not worried, as I told you before, from medium to long range gun, we're not worried about the ADS. For the barrel, we go with the ZAC 600 MMBFA, which is highly accurate and controllable in that reduced scope sway and gun bob. It does affect your sprint to fire speed and hip fire accuracy. A lot of people are using the Anastasia sniper for that bullet velocity and range and accuracy and hip fire accuracy. As a con, should I want to say. However, I find that if you shove this on the ZAC 600, it has literally no sway. It beams. It's like the Kilo, guys. It is super easy. That's why I use that on that barrel, and that's why I think you guys should use it as well. For the underbarrel, we use the M1941 handstop for that recoil control and accuracy, and the only con is hip fire accuracy, which we're not worried about at all because we won't be using this gun for hip firing. For the rounds, we use a 6.5 Secure 75 round mag. Reason why we use this and we do not use the 45 round mag is because this gun does not hit as hard as some of the other guns, so therefore we are going to be using a lot more bullets. So 75 rounds is key for this gun to be basically worthy of your use. If you're using 45, it's not worth it, so you have to shove on the 75 round mag. And then we go with length for that bullet velocity to help us out with that range, and then for the rear grip we get rubber grip, which is only giving us the pro, which is the recoil control once again. Go up to the scope, we like to use the SVT 40PU scope here 3 to 6 times. If you wish to, you can always use the 2.5 scope, but I do prefer to use this one on this gun because even when you zoom out to 6, it literally has no bounce and bobble. For stock, we go with the Anastasia padded for that axiom recoil during sustained fire and that flinch resistance, so when people are firing against us we do not flinch and we can hopefully win those engagements. Perk-wise, we go tight grip for the accuracy and recoil during sustained fire. So this is why this gun pretty much beams as you're firing, and it actually over time it starts to drop down. Most guns will always rise up, this one actually drops down, so it's super easy to control if you use this setup. And perk 2 on hand once again. So guys, I rock double time, overkill, amped, semtex and a heartbeat sensor. This is a fantastic third place option for you guys if you're new to the game and want something that's very easy to use and enjoy yourself in Caldera. Guys, let's go and see what's down in second place. So guys, we are now down in second place and we have our Black Ops Cold War guns. We have the tried and tested meta before we got the new Caldera map, the OTS. This gun is still meta. It is an absolute beast. It is fantastic to use. I love it. It's super easy to use, and this is what we're using on it. We are using the GRU suppressor for that sound suppression, vertical recontrol, that bullet velocity, that effective damage range. It does affect our ADS, our aim walking speed, and aim instability, but this gun is got no recoil. It is so easy to use. It is a dream. It is lovely. And then we shove on this with the Task Force Browns for that effective damage range, that bullet velocity and that stray speed, and does affect our vertical and horizontal. But as I already told you, this gun is not affected by that at all. So the con is not even there. We shove this the biggest mag that we've got, which is the VDV 40 round fast mag for that ammo capacity and reload quickness, and does affect our ADS slightly, and that's why we shove on the Serpent round for that ADS in, but does affect our sprint to fire time. And that is why we shove the KGB skeletal stock for that ADS fire movement speed, the aim walking movement speed, or the sprint to fire time, and only affects our hip fire accuracy. This is a great setup for you guys. There's only one other way that you can change this around slightly, if you wish to, is drop the skeletal stock and under here shove on the bruiser grip, which gives us that movement speed and hip fire accuracy. So that kind of like creates it a little bit faster for us to move around with on the map, but also give us back that hip fire accuracy, and also you know, but the only issue is it does affect our sprint to fire time. So it all depends. If you're a controller player, I would probably remove the bruiser grip, oops, do that again, and shove on the KGB skeletal stock. If you're not, if you're a controller player, maybe do it the other way around, remove that stock and have the bruiser grip as the underbarrel. But very much either way, see what works best for you, but very good gun to use. Still definitely meta for Caldera. Okay, that's enough talk about that. I'm boring you. I don't mean to bore you, but now we're going to talk about the AK-47, which is a great medium to long range gun. Still definitely top tier. That's why it's in the second spot. And for this we run the GRU suppressor. This gives us sound suppression, that vertical recoil control, that bullet velocity and effective damage range, and affects our ADS, aim walking steadiness and aim instability, but still a very good attachment to use. Then with this the barrel, we run this 20-inch Spetsnaz RPK for that bullet velocity, horizontal recoil control, that effective damage range, and that vertical recontrol. It does affect our sprinting movement speed, that's why we use the SMG, so not worried. ADS, not worried. Hip fire accuracy, not worried. Aim walking movement speed, not worried. That's what we use the SMG for. So those cons, throw them out the window. Put them in a bag. Don't worry about them. They're not to worry about. The Spetsnaz grip to help us with that horizontal and vertical recontrol, because then this gun will be super easy for you guys to control. It's still quite not the easiest, but it's pretty good. So guys, that's why we have the ultimatum for you guys that find the recoil hard to control. You stick with that. If you find that that's being too easy for you, then go down to the AK-47. Firing movement speed and ADS firing movement speed is a con in this, but I'm not worried about it as well. I'm throwing that away. 45 round mag, this is the biggest size mag that I can get. That doesn't affect me in any way. If I go 65, that affects my ADS in. I don't want my ADS affect too much, so I go with the 45 round mag and the actual 3x scope. That's pretty much it. We go with double time overkill amped throwing knife with this gun, because I basically with the OTS I want to save my bullets, and heartbeat sensor. So guys, we are nearly there. I will see you for first place. Oh, and here we have it. First place. A pairing off the Vanguard gun PPSH 41 and the Black Ops Cold War EM2. These guns, I'm going to say, are going to be the meta guns until there's any patch updates that are going to change any of this stuff around. But these guns are going to beast. The PPSH is going to beast for that close range easily. It's going to shred players all left, right and centre. And the EM2 for those medium long range guns fights is going to shred with those headshot multiply. It was a beast before and it still is. So without further ado, let's go and check out this loadout. So before, for the PPSH, we have the Mercury Silencer. For the sound suppression, that recoil control and slight damage range. But we're using it for close range, so we're not worried about that damage range con. For the barrel wise, we're going with the Kovaleskaia 230mm BO3P. For that hipfire accuracy, hipfire recoil recovery, that recoil recovery and the fire rate. It does affect our recoil control, but this gun is super easy to use and the recoil is hardly not there. It does affect our ADS, which we are worried about, but it's not too bad. So then we have the underbarrel, which is the M1941 hand stop for that recoil control and accuracy, and does affect the hip fire accuracy. But as per the barrel, that helps us out with that, so they're counteracting. Hollow point for that limb damage, because we know that this gun does not have as much damage profile for those limb and stomach, where it does have it for the neck and head shots. So by doing this, it helps us have more damage for those stomach and limbs. We shove on this the 7.62 Gorenko 71 round mag, which is fantastic for taking on groups of players. Easy peasy. Does affect ADS reload speed as well as movement speed, but this gun moves very quickly, reloads fairly quickly as well for a round mum, and does affect our ADS. That's why we shove on the stipple grip tape for that recoil recovery, initial firing recoil. Fantastic to use. Optics wise, you could go with a slate reflector or the iron sights, either of these two, whatever is your preference, my friends. The stock wise is the Emperor custom stock. As we always say, this does affect your sprint to fire, so if you are rocking a controller, you might want to go with the skeletal stock instead, which does help you with that sprint to fire and movement speed, but does affect your initial fire and recoil, whereas the Empress does help you with the recoil control, flinch resistance, accuracy and recoil recovery. So definitely a toss up between the two, depending on how you like it, but I would definitely probably go with either this one or the Empress Custom. Then we drop down into perks. I pretty much go on this one. On the last one, we had the tight grip for the accuracy and recoil during sustained fire, but I want to be aggressive. This is my #1 aggressive loadout. Best, I believe, SMG paired with the best assault rifle. So if I'm going to be aggressive, I want to be ADS in fire movement speed a lot quicker around those corners to engage on those players and get those kills a lot quicker. And then perk 2 will be on hand for the experiment, I was about to say, the equipment dexterity. And then that's it. Let's dive into the EM2 straight off the bat. The agency suppressor, the sound suppression, the vertical recoil control, the bullet velocity and the effective damage range. This gun is a beast. This will affect your ADS, aiming, walking steadiness and aiming stability, but I'm not worried about those cons at all. This gun is fantastic. For the task force here, it has the bullet velocity, horizontal recoil control, effective damage range and vertical recoil control, which is key for this gun because it has a massive kick, so therefore you will be struggling. Therefore you need as many attachments as possible to help you with that vertical and horizontal recoil control. The cons on this: the aim walking movement speed, the hip fire accuracy, which we are not going to be using this for hip fire and accuracy at all. ADS is affecting sprinting movement speed, which we're not worried about. The ADS is the only issue that we do have with this. We then rock down the field agent grip for that vertical and horizontal recoil and affecting the fire and movement speed, and the ADS fire and movement speed, which we're not worried about at all. And then the 40 round mag is what we want, which we don't want any of the other ones to affect our ADS because our ADS is already affected quite heavily, so that's why we rock with just the standard 40 round mag. Shoving this actual 3 times and we are good to go. And trust me, this is a bit more high skilled level gun. It's harder to control the recoil, so if you find it a bit hard, stick with probably the Automaton or the NZ41. These two guns are super easy to use, but if you are really enjoying this and you really want to push yourselves, the EM2 to go is the way to go, especially if you are a competitive player. These are probably going to be the 2 loadouts that you're going to be using. Use on the perks on this: double time, overkill and amps. I use Semtex and a heartbeat sensor. That is pretty much it, guys. Thank you very much for listening to my waffle and chat. I really hope you guys are going to be enjoying the new map Caldera. I will be jumping on. I'll be going on Twitch a lot more. So guys, I hope I'll see you out there. Ladies and gentlemen, over and now. Love you. God bless. Okay guys, we did touch on the top 5, however I got a sneaky one for you, for those sniper boys out there and gals. Don't worry, I got your backs covered, okay? I personally don't like using the snipers, but I know there's a lot of you out there that do, because these guns are definitely OP. Especially if you're using either the car, KI-98, and the Switch. These two guns do kick ass. So okay, without further ado, if I have to rock a sniper class, but I don't, this is what I would rock. I would rock the AUG with the Swiss or the KAR-98 from Modern Warfare. So I'll touch on both of those. So first of all, let's go with the AUG. This has a straight TTK across the board. It's super easy to use, very nice, especially if the controller has a great way of aim assisting onto those players. For this, we run the monolithic suppressor for that sound suppression and damage range. It does affect our ADS and aim walking steadiness. So bear that in mind, folks. We rock the tac laser for that ADS, speed, the aiming stability, and the aim walking steadiness, and the laser is visible to enemies. But it's very easy to use. I use on this the Solar Zero Optics Mini Reflex. The precision side picture is fairly good, my friends, and does affect our ADS slightly. And then we rock here the magazines, the 5.56 needle 30 round mags for that damage and range. And you see this really does help us with the range. We want this gun to be very good for those close range engagements up to medium range. And then we shove on the side of hand for that reload quickness for those engagements. Then guys, for your snipers, here we are, the Swiss K31. For this, we run the GRU suppressor for that sound suppression, the vertical recoil control, that bullet velocity, and effective damage range. The neck and headshot on this is a one-shot down. I hate being down by people with snipers, I really do, but guys, they do the job. That is true. It's affected the ADS, the aim walking steadiness, and the aim stability. Then we rock on this the SWAT 5mm laser for the ADS aim stability pros. The only thing is the laser is visible to enemies, but at a distance it ain't visible. Aim walking movement speed as well is affected. We shove on this in the SAS combat stock, that firing movement speed, the aim walking movement speed, and the ADS firing movement speed. So this gun is super snappy, and we ain't gonna be hip firing with a sniper, so it doesn't matter about that con. And here we shove on the rear grip, which is the airborne elastic gap for mainly for that flinch resistance. When people are firing at us under fire, we can get our headshot off and take those guys down. Aim down sight speed and aiming stability. This gun is fantastic to use. If you don't want to use this and you want to use something else, then we will be rocking. I will show you, my dear friends. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Here it is. And if we scroll down, boom. Here we have the KAR-98. For this, we run the monolithic suppressor for that sound suppression and damage range. It does affect our ADS and aim walking steadiness. Then we shove on this the Vanguard custom 27.6-inch barrel for that damage range, bullet velocity, and recoil control. It does affect our ADS and movement speed, but we will be using an AUG for moving around the map and for this for picking off players. Next we shove on this attack laser for that ADS speed, aiming walking steadiness, and aiming stability. Fantastic pros, and the con is laser visible, but at distance it ain't visible. Ferrell zoom scope for allows for that 3.5 and 8 times optics, does affect our ADS, or you can rock it without a scope. No, you can't. Bear with me. I am going crazy. I am sure there's another one here which I would use, which is the cord. Yes, it is. It's either the sniper scope for that 4.4 times if you don't want to have that variable skim on it. However, I prefer to have the variable to change my distances because this gun is damn good at that. And finally, I use focus for that flinch resistance so I can get off those headshots out against those players. If you don't want to use that, you can then use the precision comb for the aiming stability. But if you're quick firing, quick shotting with this, then you might as well be using focus. So guys, you got double time, overkill, amped, semtex, and heartbeat sensor. So that is it. So if you're snipers, these are the classes that you guys want to be using. Love you, gonna leave you.